welcome back to the Kings of Scream podcast. I'm Daniel.
I'm Tyler.
And Tyler, what we got going on this week, man?
Well, we're going to go back to the year where I had to repeat high school.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do math and English very well. 2005.
2005.
Number one, first week.
Oh, yeah. Knocked out.
Smashed.
Yeah.
Absolutely smashed their budget.
Do you know what movie they dethroned?
I did not look that up.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Wow.
Big family time,
Yeah.
big epic blockbuster movie, number one, and then along comes this little torture porn gem out of nowhere and just knocks it off the top of the list there. So
Yeah, Hostel was,
Hostel.
man, they had a lot of people that were, well, we'll get into that.
We're gonna
part.
get into that. Don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
but,
So Hostel is a story about three guys who are backpacking through Europe, and they end up going to Slavia, something like this.
Slovenia,
Slovak,
something like
and
that,
you can tell we're ignorant Americans, so we may
Czech
not
Republic.
get
Czech
the
Republic.
Czech Republic. That's where it's like where it's filmed at. So we'll just say Czech Republic. They go to Czech Republic, and of course they're greeted with a great time. However, that great time turns deadly. So you mentioned you watched this when it first came out. You know how we have to do on the show. Give me your first impression, like the first time you actually watched Hostel. Take us back to that time. What was your thoughts then?
I strictly remember saying I'm never leaving America. Because they kind of put a fear in if you walk down the wrong alley.
Yeah, take the wrong turn.
You're not coming back.
Oh, absolutely.
But that also, if you think about it, that keeps people away from their area.
Yeah.
Because it's like, nobody's going to go fuck with them.
Ain't no fucking way. I remember the first time I watched this. You gotta remember this came off the heels of Cabin Fever, and I was a big fan of Cabin Fever. Cabin Fever doesn't quite live up to the way. When I watch Cabin Fever today, it's still a good movie, but it's not nearly as good as it was when I watched it when I was in high school.
Yeah. Or
just out of high school, whatever. I thought it's brilliant then. It's gone down a little bit, but Hostel, I haven't seen this in a while, and I was wondering if it'd be the same way. And honestly, no, it holds up. It is just as good, then. I remember watching it, though, and, at that time, we'll get into that a little bit later, too, but, torture porn wasn't really even a genre, or subgenre at the time. Even though it's already, we've already seen roots of that in Saw and, whatnot. I guess some people consider Devil's Rejects a torture porn, which I don't really, but it has that, stark, gritty, realness to it. But this was just something, it's just so fucking brutal, and I just remember really getting into it. And like you, though, it gives you this fear. I think it's the type of thing where, we watch a lot of horror movies, but a lot of horror films, there is an element of fantasy there. You shoot Michael Myers 7 times or 6 times off a balcony and he gets up and runs off. It's like, yeah, it's going to be scary, but at the same time, you're never, afraid of Michael Myers. You're not like, oh, shit's over there.
No.
And if I'm taking a trip, in the Czech Republic, I'm a little leery who I'm talking to over there, And again, it's not a poor reflection on the people of the Czech Republic. Because I'll be the same way if I'm in West Virginia and there's some hill people walking around. I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I'm not going into the woods. I'm staying on the path, So, but no, it really was just kind of a real, I don't know. And you got to remember, too, and I'm not trying to justify, because this can come off xenophobic. And, we're not racist here on the show. We don't, we're not, and, anything anti-American. But no, it's like one of those things where it's like, Americans are just hated regardless. Yeah. It's a fact of life. It's nothing, whatever it is, what it is. I get it to a certain extent. So when you see a movie like this, where, it's these Americans in this, kind of poor part of Eastern Europe, and it's just like, yeah, it's relatable. I can see, and just, I don't know, I see a lot of myself in these kids. It's funny because in today's, over PC world, you can't say words like faggot or gay or anything like that, and I get that, Yeah. But that's how I talked back in 2005, 2006. I was these guys. It's not as popular or as good looking, but still the spirit of these guys, I can relate. These guys are just a bunch of young guys just looking to get laid and have a good time, and I can relate to that. So when that gets disrupted by psychopaths who are just out to kill for the thrill of it, yeah, it's a bit scary.
Do you think it'd be like, and I guess differently if it was Europeans, if it was people that were from that area, would you look at it differently than if having the Americans come over?
No, because honestly, and this is something that Eli Roth would later go on to defend this movie because he got under a lot of attack because I don't know what they have over there. Again, ignorant American. I don't know if it's like a president or a prime minister or whatever, but whoever the president of like the Czech Republic was offended by this, and he says, that's
Democratic Party.
Yeah, and you're basically making us look bad. And Eli Roth's like, listen, it's never my intention for that. It's just a story. He goes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. People are still visiting Texas. It's not like it's like it's the same. To me, it's the same thing. So it's like no, because I mean, I could see that being the other way. If you had foreign people coming over here and crazy redneck hillbillies are attacking them, it's like no, we've done that movie too. So it's like no, it's
the movie wasn't totally fake.
Yes, no, you're right,
because there was a hidden society. Yeah. That would play these games.
I still think there is too.
I guarantee you there is. I mean, stuff like that has been running for hundreds of years that have been under the radar, and you have to be really with someone to know what's going on.
No, absolutely. You gotta be not just connected, but you just gotta have that fucked up personality, I guess, to even be. And I'm not trying to equate this, even though they're both on the same fucking sick level. It's like Epstein's Island. It's the same kind of thing. You're not getting invited to that party unless you're super rich and you're already kind of connected, but then B, you gotta be into that sick fucking shit. And so it's not like, it's like a hunting party where it's just like, hey, we're killing people, you want to come in? No, you're not. It has to be some kind of top secret. You gotta, be so sewn into the fabric of this secret society that you can get in there. But no, it's one of those things where it's a scary thing because it's like, in these third world countries, and again, I'm not trying to say like Czech Republic's like I know it's more industrious and it's nicer than the movie lets on to be, but it's like there are portions of the world, especially like in Thailand and Eastern Europe or whatever, that it is just like it's the Wild West. Anything happen, and thing is the corrupt officials over there, they don't care, and especially if you're from the outside, especially if you're an American, they don't give a shit. It's just like as far as they know, hey, he went missing.
And the Czech Republic people, like I read on there, they were upset because they were portrayed as a very, very bad people. Yeah. And it's like, listen, we're not those people.
Oh, yeah. And again, that's the thing. I will say I get it. Because, I mean, again, it's like if you're foreign watching American movies and, it's Wrong Turn, Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Well, they think the same thing when they watch it. Americans. Like, look at these stupid hicks. All they do is kill people.
But that's true, though, because I know there's a British wrestling company, used to be a British wrestling company, WCPW, and they came to America to do a show, and like every billboard was a gun billboard or whatever, and they're just like, what the, but that's what, I mean, everybody assumes that if you're an American, you just run after a shotgun all day, which is kind of true, but it is what it is, but, so no, it's one of those things where it's like, it shouldn't be too sensitive, because I mean, the way I look at it is, this is just a great movie, no matter what the location is, and again, it's like, I don't know, I'm not prejudice against people from the Czech Republic. If someone says, hey, I'm from the Czech Republic, like, oh shit, Hostel, no, I'm just like, all right.
Well, and one thing I have to pick is Google gives this a 3.5 rating. Yeah. Bullshit.
So this thing, I see you're on your screen here, you got 5.9 on IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb was 5.9.
Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 59% as well. This thing did get middle of the road reviews, and I mean, and it was one of those things where either people really liked it or they really hated it, so this kind of all filtered to the middle there. And I just remember before I watched it when it came out, the reviews I was getting from my inner circle of friends, it was all like, it starts off like a Cinemax movie where it's just nothing but titties and orgies, and then it just turns into torture, and it's just like, and that was the only reviews I got, and so I didn't know what to expect going into it. I just knew I liked Eli Roth from Cabin Fever, so I was like, fuck it, I'm in. And I was surprised because, again, it's like I can see their arguments or their point of view on that, but at the same time, to me, it's just like, I don't know. It's two genres I like. I like titty movies and I like torture movies, so it's like it worked for me. And I think it worked good for the story too. That's the other thing. Like, I never felt like it was just nudity for the sake of nudity. That's what these guys were going after. Like, it's it wasn't like, I don't know. I'm trying to compare to a movie where it's just like gratuitous nudity for the sake of it. It didn't feel that way to me, at least in this movie. It just felt like, no, this is what they were going after. They're going to that district in Amsterdam or whatever. They're just going to get laid. So it's like, of course you're going to get it.
And they know that the Americans, are portrayed in the movie as stupid and horny.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is you can play on both sides. Yeah, these kids are just very they got one thing on their mind, and that's it. Except for the whiny one, I forget his name, Josh. He was just kind of like, he's kind of the whiny. And one thing I love this movie don't get enough credit for is, and he even mentioned it. Eli Roth, mentioned it that when the first time you watch this movie, you almost think Josh is going to be the main character because the trope of horror films is always the ones who are just super horny and super flaky and goofy or whatever. They're the ones that get killed first, and it's always the sensible one, the guy who is more grounded and rounded, and just the normal guy is your main character. And so when you watch this movie starting off, you're just assuming that Paxton's going to get killed. Yeah. Maybe Ollie or whatever, however pronounce his name, is going to get out. But it'll be Josh will be the one that's going to find it. So when Josh gets taken out early in the movie, you're like, holy shit. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Like, and then Paxton's
there's no rules to this movie.
Yeah, at that point, you're just like, shit, now we're all on for the ride because we don't know where.
Which I like those kind of movies because it keeps you wondering because if you can figure out a movie within the first 45 minutes, it's a boring fucking movie.
Absolutely.
If this movie, you go, I think they don't do the kill scenes. I mean, besides the first credits, they do the kill scenes like 33 to 36 minutes in.
No, so it builds to it. It really does.
It does,
and you get to know these characters. That's the thing. Like you really, even Ole, who's on, he's even shorter, but you get to know his sense, and they built upon his character a little bit and everything. And he make him sympathetic. When you find out he has a kid at home, you're just like, oh shit, like this is, he's not just a frat boy who's out doing whatever. He's just a guy on a vacation or whatever. Gang is. And I don't know. It really. I mean, I think this movie. I think when you look at the cover, when you look at just what it is, it's easy to kind of dismiss it. We've mentioned that with slasher films in the past where people are just like, oh, it's one of those Friday 13th movies. And it's like, no, when you look at the movie itself, there's layers to it. And I feel like this is one of those movies that does have a lot to offer that, most people don't give credit for.
Yeah, look at their budget. They had a $4.8 million budget. I mean, it's not, compared to the other ones that we have done where their budgets are $9 to $13 to $15 million. And this movie is it's able to fight with the other movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it may have splashed and it was able to become a top contender quickly. Since like they're $82 million, I mean, can you imagine that putting just $4.8 million into something and then getting 82 back out of it? It's like, god damn. Yeah.
I think that I don't know if they were expecting it to kick off like that.
I can't imagine they were expecting to be that big. I think, they were hoping. Yeah. You can always say that. But if you were to ask anybody at Lionsgate or maybe even Eli Roth himself, because Eli Roth, when he made this movie, he really wasn't even intending it to be R-rated. Like, he was actually going into it thinking, like, NC-17 and whatever. And so, literally, it's just like, I think it just took everybody by storm, really.
I like how they, I don't know, I guess I like the torture death, kind of like how they put it in there with just some of the, we'll get into it, but some of the moments were like, last night, I still turned my head. Because it's like, son of a bitch, if that was happening to me, I'd just want to bullet my fucking head.
I think Josh's torture scene is so fucking brilliant. And he plays it so well because, again, he's just crying. He's a mucousy mess. And the dude just
Achilles heel.
Yo, fuck, man. Yeah. When they cut his tendon, and then he's like, you can get up and go, and the guy stands up and just stretches.
And they all have puke coming out of their mouth, and then, of course, some of them are having the gag ball. So the gag ball.
He puts a drill right in his thigh. It's like, fuck me, dude. And then, of course, after he kind of messes with him, he eventually just which I think is funny. Like, a handful get their throat slashed, and you're just like, that just seems like so tame compared to what they just went through. So it's almost like you're begging for the throat slash. Like, just cut my throat and get it over with, please, because
the guy that's using the welding unit.
You feel so bad for that girl too, because it's just like, oh my god. And it's just, I don't know though. It's one of those things where it's like, at what point does it no longer hurt? You know what I mean? Because do you remember the movie Punisher? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When he has the guy upside down and he's pretending like he's about to torch his back, but he just pops him. It's almost like, do you think like that's almost what it is though, or I don't know?
I guess when it gets to a certain nerve,
it does
want to quit.
I guess so. Yeah. At what point? Is it just over at that point? But
when you're, you know that your eye's hanging off, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
No, go ahead. Yeah, we're at the point now.
The fucking part where he cuts her eye off and that shit squirts out her eye.
It's just,
that was my brutal moment of the whole time.
That is the moment right there. You're just like, fuck this. Oh, it's so.
The kids with the baseball bats, though.
So apparently that's a real thing. Even though Czech Republic just like, oh, we don't like our kids being portrayed like that. It's like, no, that's a real thing. Eli Roth said he's witnessed it where they go over there. It's just youths running wild over there, and it's just like, son of a bitch. But it's like,
you want some bubble gum?
So if you're going to go to the Czech Republic, take a bag of candy with you because I'll tell you right now, you're going to need it. So
everybody had to throw candy to get through the alley there.
So it's just like, yeah, go for it.
It's like, well, this is like going across the border to America.
One thing about this movie too that I think a lot of people early on. I mean, I'm a big horror fan, so it probably wouldn't have mattered, but I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. And whenever he saw Cabin Fever, he was big on it, so he got in touch with Eli Roth, and then this is the movie they would eventually work on. And he was credited as executive producer, but I guess he was kind of on the side there when he was writing it. And he kept saying, like, don't just write it stupidly.
Yeah.
Like, make all the right. And you could tell, like, there is a certain, like I said, it's a layered story. It really is. And so, I don't know. Again, I'm not sure what all he added to it, but I got to say, of all of Eli Roth's movies, this is my favorite. And
he actually plays a cameo.
See, I didn't see him, and they said he was like the shirtless German guy at the brothel or the hostel or whatever. I'm just like, I didn't see him there, but I was like, oh fuck.
But Quentin Tarantino, he's a god among men.
Oh, he really is. Absolutely. My favorite living director today. My favorite director of all time. Like, I can't say enough praise for this guy.
Favorite movie that he was in?
That he was in, or that he?
That he was in.
So for me, my favorite movie that this guy did was From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Richie Gecko, I think he's brilliant, twisted, quirky, weird, just everything brilliant about it.
You want to come sit on the bed?
For me, a close second would be, it's small role, but Mr. Brown and Reservoir Dogs. Because again, I just I don't know what the movie's called. You can find this scene on there. This is before the new Top Gun movie came out. But did you ever hear when they talked about like Top Gun? Was a metaphor for being gay? Have you heard this thing?
No.
So Tarantino does a whole bit. Apparently, this is something he just did on his own. Like, he worked at the video store back in the '80s. He would just kind of run his mouth about it. And then he had a friend who made a movie. This is way before he was even famous, and put him in the movie. Yeah. And that's all he does is this one scene at this party. But he does the whole Top Gun is a metaphor for being gay thing. And so as far as like him being in movies, I gotta rank that one up there, even though I've never seen the film or anything, just that scene, but that scene is fucking brilliant. So anyway, we got derailed on Tarantino. We'll bring it back to the Hostel here. Again, the idea that this is loosely based on a true story is what really kind of hits it close to home right here. I don't know. I couldn't imagine.
It keeps your fear up.
Yeah, because put yourself in Paxton's situation. You go over there. Your best friend is now missing. Everyone's claiming he left, and then you go to the police. They blow it off. And again, it's not really saying the police were in on it. They were just more like
they didn't care.
They don't care. That's the whole thing. But thing is, that can reflect on even America. If someone came over here from is foreign and then they went missing, most police would be like, well, they probably went back home. Not our problem. Not our not our town, not our jersey. And so you can't even really fault him there. It's like, oh, that's how it is. That's reality right there.
They even planned for him that he was checked out of the hotel and that he left at this time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was all. I think the cops. I think the cops were in on it just a little bit.
I think some of them must have been only because of the secret society. There's no way they're going unchecked with any non-authoritarian, vibe to them. There has to be something there, some kind of
has to be a
tie-in. If it's not all of them, there's definitely a hint of it to keep them kind of, So, favorite parts of this movie. Well, go ahead, throw out some of your favorite moments, if you will, of Hostel.
Man, I'm trying to think that when I was like watching this, or like walking down the alley, and the kids with the gum, and they just start bashing his head in on the concrete.
Just getting ruthless.
And it's like, these kids just don't care. And it's like, yeah. See, that's going to make me not want to walk through an alley.
No, absolutely.
You pull in a car and you're telling them to move, get the hell out of the way. And then all of a sudden, you can't even shoot the kids.
Yeah.
Because they just swarmed you.
Wait till part 2. Have you seen part 2?
I have seen part 2.
It's like one of the kids don't make it out that lucky, so he gets himself capped right in the freaking head.
I mean, he, what's his name, catches one of the kids. Mm-hmm. He's got him in a chokehold.
Yeah, not in a chokehold. They're just straight up strangling this kid to death. I mean, he's going for it until he kind of realizes what he's doing.
He's like, oh man, this is just a kid.
Yeah.
I need to, I'm not going to be one of those people that are.
But again, think about where you're at I guess, geography, but like just in the world where you could choke a kid in broad daylight and like no one's stopping you. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's how crazy this is. And I mean, again, I know it's not reflecting the.
I think that's why the Czech Republic people were portrayed.
Probably a little upset about that. A little offended.
We don't hurt kids.
You can't do that here. But again, I mean, it fits the story pretty well. You know, it is, like I said, the Wild West over there.
I like the woman that got hit by the train.
Yeah, that was a whole.
Do you think she went under, or did she?
I bet she got liquefied.
You think she got liquefied?
Well, then again, I don't know because that train was probably coming to somewhat stop. I can't imagine it's going to speed through the station, you know. So, but either way, yeah, she didn't turn out good for her.
The guy that was doing her face,
mm-hmm.
he was probably one of the coolest people in the movie.
Yeah,
because when he was standing in the room, he's like, "So how you going to do it?" You know, trying to pump himself up.
He has this cool charisma to him. I've seen him in one other movie. Did you ever see The Condemned with Stone Cold Steve? He was one of the executives or whatever back there. And even in that movie, like I said, he don't really have much to do in that one as well. He's kind of a side guy. But I don't know. Just anytime I see this guy on camera, it's just, I don't know. I love this guy. Like, he just has this vibe to him that just, I don't know.
He makes the most of
He does.
his
He takes the little way he goes. I looked him up, actually. I guess I never watched the show, but he was on that show Suits. And I guess he's a huge part of that. Like, actually one of the main characters. So I'm kind of glad to see this guy got a little bit, you know.
He plays one. I'm a Suits fan.
Okay, so you know this guy.
So he plays one of the guys that's trying to be upper level, and then he's getting stopped by somebody else. So he wants to figure out, why is this new guy coming in and taking over? And he's a fucking prick.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's all I'm saying. This guy, I think the guy's name's like Matt Hoffman or something like that, or Rick Hoffman. I think it's Rick Hoffman. Anyways, really good actor, and I want to see him in more stuff. Actually, I feel like he's just such a it's a very likable guy.
Yeah.
What I like about this movie too is the tension. Eli Roth plays the tension really well because from the moment Paxton gets kidnapped inside the, I guess you call it the kill factory or the art show or whatever you want to call it, from that point on, you're just on the edge of your seat because you know the whole time you're just like, get out. And when he finally does break free, and he's home, he's up, he's in the car has the keys in it, he's gonna take off, and then he hears that Asian woman screaming. And I mean, this speaks to my character. I'm not a fucking hero. I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm leaving. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not going back. It's just one of those things where I'm like, fuck it, I'm out of here. But he goes back, and the whole time you're like, don't go back. And part of you's like, you're glad he did, because if it plays out wrong, bad for her, it's like if he didn't go back and get her when she throws herself in front of the train later, he was able to sneak onto the other train. So while that distraction going on, so I mean, it does work out for him in the end. But I don't know, the whole time I'm watching, I'm just like, dude, get the fuck out of there. Like, just leave, go. But like I said, it's just, and then they do finally get out. They get first they get caught inside the town. And that's when he runs over to two girls and
backs up over.
Yeah. And I love that. I love when he hits him, and then like that one girl kind of survives,
and she
looks up, and then boom, the air car comes and just mows her down. But then he's trying to get to the train station, and as he's on this country road, there's a roadblock, and you see the corrupt officials pulling people out of the car, and you're just like, fuck, like this guy just can't catch a break, And again, so it just one, and then when he finally is safe, like he gets on the train, and then you hear the voice of the guy, and you're just like, son of a, and it's funny because when you watch it, I guess now you realize he's in no danger, and now it's more about him hunting the businessman. But the first time I watched it, I wasn't thinking about that. I'm just like, fuck, like, dude, just like duck down your seat and do something. Because I guess I'm more afraid of the guy than he was. But I do love the fact that he ends up taking his fingers as revenge, and then he ends up
in the toilet,
and then and not just a toilet, but an Eastern European toilet. It's like this feels grosser.
Did he drop a deuce before?
Man, I would have just to prove a point. But yeah, then he ends up taking him out and then slashes his throat. Apparently there was an alternate ending that they shot initially, which I think they're better off doing the one they used, where apparently the guy was with his daughter, the businessman was with his daughter, but then he ends up, it says it's a special feature on the DVD, and I had the DVD, but I don't remember that at all. I must have saw it a long time ago and just forgot about it or whatever, but yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, he kidnaps the doctor, or that, well,
yeah.
I call him a doctor, but he looks like he kidnaps his daughter, which
it's not her fault. Her dad's an asshole, you really shouldn't try to.
I don't know why they want to kidnap. I mean, I understand like getting back revenge.
Yeah.
But
or even letting him think you're going to do something to the daughter and then do nothing. But it's like, I can't agree. I guess when they did shoot it, they did a test screen. And everybody's like, "Yeah, we don't like that ending," so they reshot it.
You know that they actually cut out over 4 minutes of footage.
Yeah.
Because they just couldn't.
Apparently, now I only read this on one thing. I think I read on IMDb. I didn't see it on the Wikipedia page, so I don't know how true this is. But apparently, I guess they didn't say which sex scene, but during one sex scene, they literally shot like legit sex, and then they're just like, yeah, you can't have that in this. So they literally,
they should release
an uncut director's cut or unrated director's cut kind of thing.
Well, I felt like I watched it. Okay, I watched it upstairs on my TV, and then I watched that version. And I came downstairs and I watched it on the computer, like on a website. And I was thinking, this one just looks a little different. There was a couple other things that I seen that I didn't see upstairs.
Yeah. And
I was thinking, well, maybe there is. And then I started looking. I looked into it and was like, yeah, they actually cut out.
Okay, so
a lot of time.
So. And you know what? Maybe I didn't notice that. So the only thing I did realize was I watched this on Pluto TV. I had the DVD at home. I just, on the movie itself, the theatrical release, it nothing big. It has a little post-credit scene where, in the very, very beginning, when they're in that bar in Amsterdam, and that huge guy comes over, and he's like, "Here, smoke this," and everything else. I don't know. He says something else. That's all it is. Like literally a 2-second clip of him like saying something, and then it cuts away. Wasn't on the Pluto TV version. And I was just like, well, why'd they cut that little thing out? But like you said, maybe I got the different version when I was watching it on online or whatever. But so I anything else to add to this? I don't know what else to add at this point.
I like the fact that that they had a lot of good kill scenes.
Yeah,
but it wasn't just the kill scenes; it's the torture.
Yeah,
it's like, man, you don't want to get caught in one of those spots.
No.
But don't piss off people in another country.
Especially if you can't speak the language.
Especially if you can't speak the language.
Because you can't defend yourself verbally or anything like that.
I'm not. I don't know anybody from the Czech Republic.
No.
But I'm not going to sit here and bash them.
No. Especially after seeing this movie.
Especially after seeing this movie, because last thing I want to do is wake up in a suitcase on a damn train.
I don't want a bag over my head and I'm just looking through one hole. Like, where am I at?
It was a good. I thought it was a well put together movie.
No, absolutely.
I think that Google's little 3.5 rating is bullshit.
Well, I think a lot of that's just mainstream people who can't handle either they can't handle the nudity early on, or they can't handle the torture afterward. Probably more torture, but I'm sure the nudity don't help for some of these people
either.
I'd
give it a solid 7.7.
7. I'll go 10.0. Like, seriously, I love this movie. If we're going on 10, favorite. It's a 10.0. I fucking love this movie. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Of course, what's his name dies in the first part of the second.
Yeah, he doesn't make too far. That's the rule of the sequel. It's funny because Eli Roth, he has a cameo in this. He's one of the bar patrons in the very beginning. Well, in part 2, when he goes, and I forget now why Paxton enters this room, but there's like a trophy room, and there's 3 heads on a stake or something like that. Eli Roth's head is one of the heads on there, so I thought it was kind of a cool cameo for him as well. But it's funny because it's like connected. Then that means that these hostile fuckers, these torture people, they got that random, American tourist in that little pub there, so he got taken too.
What was the doctor eating? What was that one guy on the train eating?
I don't know, but it was some kind of weird meat inside of his salad, because he's just like, I'd rather use my hands. Yeah. It's just like, what the hell? So, no, overall, I'm giving this movie all the praise in the world. It's, aside from Halloween and maybe Friday 13th Part 2, and Part 1. I can't. Even though Part 1 has its flaws, it's still my favorite. But this is probably my 4th favorite film that we've done here. It rivals Texas Chainsaw Massacre as much as how much I enjoyed it or whatever. So
I want to put this just slightly ahead of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I mean it's one of those things where I think a lot of hardcore horror movie purists would be like, oh no, Texas Chainsaw's classic. It's like, I'm not debating it's not a classic, but I'm just saying on a personal level, as much as I enjoyed it, I enjoyed this one far more. I mean, I don't know, it's still just, and I think the fact that you're seeing them, I know that's the whole thing in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's like what you don't see, you're imagining it kind of thing. Whereas in this one, no, you're fucking seeing it. Like, you literally are just seeing eyeballs getting chopped off, Achilles tendons being sliced open. So it's just like, this shows you the goods right here. So
and then the Democratic Party over there tried to warn the people. Extremely disturbing movie.
Absolutely.
Like, don't.
And it was.
And if you get wearied about things, don't watch it.
No.
But if you would think of this is what I was thinking about actually. So if you live in the Czech Republic and you watch this movie, and you're walking down an alley, it has to be on your mind, right?
Now, let me ask you, are you saying you're already from there?
You're already from there.
See, I don't know if that would be... Well, maybe it would, though, because, again, I guess it's no different than us if we're driving down the hills of West Virginia and our car breaks down. We're looking up there into the mountains like...
Because the art, like the American films that happen in the States, they have a certain way to make you feel that uneasiness.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
So I would think the level would be much, much higher because... For one, the police are corrupt.
Yeah.
And for two, like, hardly anybody cares what people are doing.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if it's underground dark shit.
And see, I don't know how much more exposed about myself in this one, but a lot of the world's pornography comes from the Czech Republic, and you get a lot of dark stuff, and over there, a lot of rape porn is shot there, and a lot of stuff like that. So it's like it's already got kind of the seediness to it already. So I just feel it's funny that they're just like that does not represent us. It's like but I've seen a lot of other films from this place
this porn says really differently.
Exactly. So it's just like I don't know.
But it's just like certain. This is just how I think. This is only. Certain people in the world do things better and scarier than obviously. So, you go over there to Europe. Obviously, if you're not from there, it's a scary place.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But if you're there and you live there and you know what happens in there, you still have to think about, well, I'm not going to be, going into this area because I know what happens.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us stupid, horny Americans, we go into that area.
But we're also being led by our dick the whole time. Like, seriously, it's just like, we're just like, oh, naked ladies.
The only head that's thinking.
Exactly. So,
and does it look like everybody had a breast? Like,
oh, they all look like they were like, I'm not sure if they were or not, but it seemed like they were all just like porn related or something. Yeah. But again, that's what I said there. I mean, they are one of the leading exporters of pornography in the world. So, that's a funny thing too. And I'm not going. I guess we're kind of wrapping up on Hostel here, but Eli Roth produced another film. He didn't direct it, but he produced it. I think he may have been in it though. Aftershock. Did you ever see that? Mm-mm. So this takes place in Brazil, and it's more like I don't know. It's a group of people on vacation. It's not really horror per se, but I guess it kind of goes into that realm. But basically, what happens is a huge earthquake. This is around the time we was having those massive earthquakes and tidal waves and shit down there, and the miners got trapped in Chile and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So huge earthquake hits, devastates everything, but then this prison gets broken, like the walls, like during the earthquake collapses, and the prisoners just escape, and they go on a killing, raping, torture spree. It's fucked up. And I think it's the same thing where you kind of get in the same trouble where everybody's just like, that does not represent Brazil. Yep. And he's just like, it's a movie, But it's like, again, when you're the American who's a fish out of water, I mean, it doesn't necessarily reflect poor on the place. It's just more of our insecurities of just being somewhere where they don't speak English or we don't know the landmarks or whatever. And so when you're yelling for help, please help me, no one can know what you're saying. They're just like, oh, crazy person, he's foreign, get away from him kind of thing. And so it's just one of those things where it's just like, I don't know, it's just very relatable, I guess.
So they had like a lot of like, I'm trying to think, like the death scenes, how they did it. I like how they worked up to it.
Yeah.
Instead of just instantly walking in the room and
yeah.
So they kept the torture aspect of it. So
I mean, that was literally what this is the first time we heard the phrase torture porn, and even though it'd be kind of thrown back on the saws that came out before this film, this is the one that kind of started all of that phrase. And honestly, I know in the world of horror. Torture porn is kind of a dirty word, but I tend to like those movies. I really do. I mean, again, I guess it speaks on our nature as human beings, but it's going one step further. We're no longer just watching the slasher kill teenager. Now we're watching them be tortured as well, kind of thing. So,
if you've never got into that genre of pornography, and you watch it for the first time,
It
you're
could be.
either going to be blown away, mesmerized, you're going to be like, okay, this is not for me.
Exactly.
Which 99% of the time, it's going to be blown away, mesmerized,
Yeah.
because they live out fantasies that...
It's taking it further. I think that's
Yeah.
what it boils down to. Because, again, I want to believe that more people watch this as entertainment. Like, no one's really watching this like, yes, this is what we're doing. No, you're watching it as a horror film. So even the arguments from the 80s of like, oh my God, we're watching these young women being killed by a mass killer in the woods. No, it's not that. It's just we're seeing something we're not normally seeing. And I feel like this is just pushing that envelope just a little bit further. Now we're going beyond just, hack and slash, stalk and kill. We're going to torture them, set them up in crazy things. Again, that may speak to us as a society, but
They wanted to stick out, though.
yeah,
I mean, you can't just keep repeating and cleansing the process. You have to jump off the ledge.
Exactly.
And I think it worked out just fine for them.
They did just fine.
They're all rich.
This did spawn 2 sequels. Hostel 2 was theatrical, and then they did Hostel 3 straight to video. Personally, was not a fan of Part 2. I just couldn't get into it. The only scene I remember from Part 2 that I really liked was when that one girl gets hung upside down in the bathtub, and that woman cuts her up and bathes in her blood. Very reminiscent of Elizabeth Bathory. That was the only thing I remember really liking from that movie. I just didn't care for the sequel hardly at all, and so I never did watch Part 3. So I don't know if 3 is any good or
seen 3.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Well, it was straight to video, and that's probably what kept me away from it. Because I was like, as we mentioned with Return to House on Haunted Hill, we're using it straight to video. There's a reason it's straight to video,
Yeah, there's a reason.
So
it doesn't perform as the #1 movie did.
So, any other thoughts on this before you want to put a bow on this bad boy?
No, I think that we
covered it.
I think we covered how well it was produced. I mean,
brilliant.
But it also had a storyline in it.
That's the thing too. I think
made
we mentioned it again, kind of going on what we said. It's just there is so many layers to this. This isn't just a standard torture, whatever. No, it's like no, there's a story. There's an actual, and there's characters you care about. Like you do actually, you feel bad when Josh gets taken or when Oli disappears or whatever. So I mean, you really are kind of invested in these characters, So they're not just one-dimensional, whatever. I mean, I think it's what I like about Paxton too, because up until the point when Josh gets killed, Paxton's the party guy. He's the carefree friend. And then as soon as the tables get turned, you see there's another side to him. He actually does care. He's not just, this cell. And then, like, even when the girls are still kind of hitting on him, he's like, listen, I just want to get my friend and get out of here.
When he walked into the bar and they're like, hey, sit down, have a drink with us.
Exactly.
He was like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want to know where my friend is.
Jay Hernandez was the actor who played Paxton. And I've only seen him in a couple other things. He was in the Eli Roth's Thanksgiving fake trailer that was in the Grindhouse movie. And I think that's the last time I seen him horror related. But no, I don't know. He's another guy I kind of wish would have done a little bit more maybe. I think he's on that Friday Night Lights. I never watched it though, so I really can't tell you.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie.
Yeah, so he did that. So
you got a favorite kill scene
in this movie? I think as far as like brutality, well, it's not even a kill scene though because she gets killed by the train. I would say the torture scene with the eyeball was probably my favorite scene, but as far as actual kill,
what about the guy with the chainsaw?
Yeah, he drops it on himself, kind of thing. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. That'd probably be as far as kills go, only because he don't get killed by that. He gets shot in the head when he gets
shot in the Paxton.
Man,
shoots him in the head.
I guess my favorite kill scene is probably the final kill scene when he kills the Dutch businessman in the bathroom. Just because
feel like a sense of relief.
It really is. Like it's just like yes, finally, it's finally fucking over. Like the last obstacle has been jumped. Because really, all the other kill scenes are like Josh's kill scene. Even though he gets his throat slashed, it's kind of off. And really, the kill scene itself isn't that great as it is the torture building up to it. It's perfect. Like I said, the Asian lady, her torture is fucking brutal. But then she throws her from the train. And again, not much of a kill scene. Although the Czech prostitute that gets ran over by the car, that's pretty satisfying. Probably a toss between her and Dutch businessman. So, what about you?
Yeah, I really like when the businessman gets his throat cut, shoved in the toilet, shit like that. But I thought the chainsaw scene was hilarious because he kept sticking his finger in his mouth, just like don't play with your food. And your mom always told you not to play with your food. And then he's like, he wants to turn into a badass, slips in the blood, And the next thing you know, Chainsaw's inside
Cuts
of him.
himself.
Leans up, and he's just like...
Kind of Leatherface himself a little bit there, you know?
He did.
So, yeah. So,
and then he gets a bullet in the head.
Worst troubles. So... Alrighty, well guys, I think we got to put a bow on this thing, so we want to thank you guys for listening. Just so you guys know, next month we're going on spring break, so there will be no Kings of Scream podcast in April, but we'll be back in May. We don't know what we're doing yet, but we'll get back with you on that, so stay tuned to all of our social media platforms, and we'll let you know. So, I'm Daniel.
I'm Tyler.
And we are the Kings of Scream, and we'll catch you next time.